All right, welcome back to the Game Link podcast. I'm your host, Lebby, and as always, I'm joined by my friend Elmer here.
Ahoy, hoy.
Ahoy! So this week we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed, what year was this movie? 2016? Yeah. It's going to be a bit of a handful. But before we get started, how has the last week been for you, Elmer?
Well, actually not too crazy, to tell you the truth. With the warm weather coming upon us, got to spend some time in my backyard, and finally do the last of the yard work I didn't get to complete last fall before the first snow came here. So I literally, on Friday, had to shovel up close to 60 pounds of dog shit in my backyard.
Fun.
Beyond that, not too much since the last time we basically spoke. Was pretty much just a combination of work and just kind of settling things in for the spring. Picked up a 120 count bottle of Allegra knockoff, and man, my allergies have not been better in a springtime in probably close to 15 years. So you know what? No, fantastic.
There you go. Well, that's good. Yeah, allergy season for me is approaching here within the next couple months, and I am not looking forward to it. But yeah, the last week for me, I didn't talk about this on the last episode, but I've ordered myself an RFID implant to go into my hand here between my thumb and my pointer finger. And my plan is, it's going to last for half of my lifetime at least. But I'll be able to program it to like gate codes or like smart lock tokens or like my work badge if I wanted to, or I could put my medical information on it, or all sorts of things. So I got this little kit coming to put that into my hand, and I am so excited about it. I was supposed to actually get it 2 days ago, so I was hoping I'd be able to talk about my experiences with it so far on this episode, but that'll have to wait till next week.
And all I can say is, before we get too much further, as soon as I saw him talking about this online, the first thing that came to mind is, oh my god, he's gonna be a cyborg!
That's what everyone at work has been saying. They're like, I can't believe you're gonna be my first part robot friend.
Bigger question for you, how far of a range is the sensing technology gonna be? Is this gonna be within like 3 feet, or can you be within about, 20 feet and still be able to react some of these?
So it could potentially work up to a foot away from the actual chip in my hand, but realistically that's not happening. You're pretty much going to have to touch whatever is reading the chip in order for it to connect properly.
Considering I know how young your nieces and nephews are, my god, how much I wish you'd be able to like wave your hand and be like, I'm a Jedi! And be able to freak them out.
Like turn the TV on.
Just be like, I command you, open doors. I command you, turn on television.
Well, yeah, so it has two different frequencies. So it's not only a radio frequency chip, it's also an NFC chip. So I could have two different functions programmed on it at the same time. So like what my plan is when I buy a house is to have like smart locks, so I can unlock the doors with the radio frequency, and then have instead of light switches, have little modules in each room, and I can just touch my hand to it and the light will turn on, or I can do it from my phone or whatever. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool. I could potentially, like, if I had like a Tesla or something, I'm sure I could copy the key onto my hand and just unlock my car that way and stuff. It's cool stuff. I'm really excited for it.
I don't know, at the same time, just knowing you, it's going to be a combination of I bussy, engaged. And then because you said multiple sync, then you just see the other hand. I plug. The missus walks in again. So, come on. You knew I only had one other place to... Well, technically two other places to go when you said that, so...
Who knows, man? Who knows? Yeah, but besides that, which I'm super pumped about, I've been playing Satisfactory again. which, if you don't know what Satisfactory is, it's like a resource management game. So it's like kind of like Minecraft, but instead of building like land or houses and stuff, it's just like building factories. So you have to build, a smelter to get ore to make this thing, and then you can make this thing now, but you have to like unlock the next part of it and things like that. So it's like a lot of thinking and like planning things out and like trying to be efficient and stuff. It's really cool. I set up a dedicated server for it, and me and some friends have been playing for a couple days, and I've been having so much fun. I forgot how much I liked games like that. So
I might have another one for you. Remind me to bring it up after the show. Unfortunately, I got to do a little bit of backtracking to figure out what episode it was of something. But no, I might have another game, kind of like sort of like a original SimCity style like builder game like that.
Ooh.
That I think if you of all people enjoy, because it's like a original, like the modern day alpha version of, or alpha or beta Steam releases of like survival games.
Oh, right, yeah.
Think that, but in a top-down strategy style game, like I said, like SimCity. So I think you might get a kick out of this one.
Yeah, I like stuff like that, like any sort of like management type of thing, or I don't know. It's a lot of fun. If you've never heard of Satisfactory, check it out because it's addicting.
Did you ever think at the age of 30, I mean, at least when you were 16, did you ever think at the age of 30 that Excel spreadsheet would give you a hard on? In a good way?
No, but seeing as spreadsheets is like 90% of my job, like in the real world, it makes sense that I just get satisfaction out of like knowing like, yes, all these machines combined produce this much of this product, and I can utilize exactly that much of this product with all these machines and then feed them into something else. And like I literally have a spreadsheet of how much each thing is making, how much of each of that thing is being used, and how much I can store away. Like, it's crazy. I've got a little crazy with this game, but it's fun.
I know, you're not wrong, and I didn't mean to throw in the defensive there for a second, but
no.
And I was just going to say, hey, keep in mind, I also have an Excel spreadsheet I look at all day, every day, and that is called a bound book, which is somebody who's part of an FFL dealer. You have and you know. And let's put it this way, when everything is going good, I sit back, I smile, and I drink my coffee and have a great day. When things go bad, I reach up, I rub my nipples, and I go, oh no.
Oh my.
Exactly. And then I start doing my Kegel exercise because that's what's going to help the best in prison. But anyway, speaking of getting acquainted to what's going to happen to you in prison, maybe we should get into the movie.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed. So before we talk about the movie, we got to talk about the game. So it's kind of a coincidence that we just did Prince of Persia last week, because the Ubisoft Montreal, the people that made Prince of Persia: Sands in Time, the game, not the movie, actually made Assassin's Creed.
Which, funnily enough, Disney, who made the movie for the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, they killed the chance of this film having an actual sequel, live-action sequel, when they saw the negative reception, even though the movie actually technically made money on paper. They killed any chance of that happening by saying, are you out of your fucking mind?
Thank goodness. Gosh. Yeah, no, even though this movie was one of the hardest things to watch that I've ever encountered, I am glad that we're doing it this week because we talked about Prince of Persia last week, and there's a lot of connection there. So, yeah, like I said, it's made by Ubisoft Montreal. If you've never played the game or heard of the movie or anything, it's historical fiction mixed with some science fiction, and then they just sprinkle in some real-world events from the past. So on paper, it sounds super interesting and engaging and relatable, which I think the game had elements of. I really was into this game when it came out, and after I played through the first three and realized it was just the same thing with slightly different stories, but just like the unpolished combat and like too many side quests and stuff. I just it just got stale to me. And then of course that's when they come out with the good one, Black Flag, which is supposed to be the pirate one that everyone likes. By that time I had lost interest, and so if that one is where it got good, I've missed the mark. But I don't think I'm gonna be playing it anytime soon.
Well, stay tuned for our inevitable live stream where we decide to go and play ourselves some Sea of Thieves. And I think I convinced Libby here that we need to have a combination of sea shanties as well as the Village People tunes playing over the course of that as we go and raid every island and ship we can get our mitts on the entire time.
Yeah, we were talking about if we can't find a sea shanty version of It's Raining Men,
we're gonna have to write it.
We're
ourselves.
gonna have to make one ourselves. So,
and I think we know enough people with deep enough voices as well as enough rhythm in terms of being able to sing that I think we would be able to have a hell of a good quartet for that going on. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that'll be fun. I am really excited about doing something like that. Once you have like a decent gaming setup and stuff.
Hey, I've got a decent gaming setup right now.
Did you just buy that new laptop?
Yeah, I bought that one laptop I was telling you about. Did I
tell you that? I don't think I knew that you bought it, but I knew you were thinking about it.
I guess I should stand here quickly. I just bought a Razer, a pretty decent little Razer. I mean, it's only got about a 500 gigabyte, solid state hard drive on it and stuff like that. 16 gigabytes of RAM on it. God, what was it? 2.48 gigahertz processor on it. Unfortunately, only 8 cores on it, 12 cores. 12 cores. Sorry.
Oh, that's
But I mean, it still runs at a pretty good clip. I mean, I can't play anything too high def right now, but like Sea of Thieves and stuff like that. I've been having a lot of fun going back because I never got a chance to play it. I've been playing a little bit of Payday 2 right now, and some Killing Floor 2 because I played a lot of Killing Floor back in the day. But
yeah, I mean, for something mobile, that's like actually, I mean, pretty good. I know it's a couple years old, but yeah, for something mobile, you can't really expect a whole lot more.
As you can tell, we really want to talk about this movie.
Well, the game, at least, it does have some interesting stuff, but it was really hard to really find out much on the development and stuff of this game. But apparently, I mean, if you hadn't already caught on, it takes a lot of inspiration from Prince of Persia because it was made by the same studio. And you can kind of really see that if you've played both those games. Like, they're both like a lot of climbing and like parkour and things like that. But funny enough, this game kind of had its start going back to Donald Duck going Quackers for the N64, which was made by Ubisoft Montreal. After they released Goin' Quackers, a lot of the team felt like that they should be doing something more with their careers, and that they were kind of above Disney property platformers. And they, like, around this time, they had just finished Splinter Cell, which was like their big like IP that they had just created and was going well. So they kind of wanted to go more in that direction of like bigger ideas and bigger properties and 3D, like better, interactive gameplay and stuff. So they had the idea to reboot Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, which they ended up getting the permission of the creator of Prince of Persia to reboot the franchise. Which they made that game, and it did pretty well. Once that game kind of did well enough, the director of it was basically told, okay, start working on the next Prince of Persia game. So he immediately started working on the sequel to Prince of Persia, and during his research, he found out about the assassin from Persia, which was like their elite, like, trained assassins. And so he decided that instead he wanted the game to be about assassins and kind of pivoting from the Prince of Persia to a story that was all about assassins and their like quarrels between each other and stuff. And they went to Ubisoft with it and got permission to do it. So they said, okay, no more Prince of Persia sequel. Now it's Assassin's Creed. Which, I mean, it did so much better than the Prince of Persia game. So I think they made the right choice. But, I mean, still, it's Ubisoft. I wish they still cared about things like they did back then.
Did they really care about shit back then, though?
Not more than they do now, at least.
I was gonna say 13 years in, I think they made the right decision, to tell you the truth, because they made how many of these fucking games for how many different consoles?
I don't know, man. All I know is I played Assassin's Creed 3 on the Wii U, and what a mistake that was.
You could have literally named any game, and then at the end of it added on the Wii U, and no matter what, it would have been the best punchline ever. I was playing Glover last week on the Wii U.
Speaking of Glover, some hot gaming news for you. They're releasing Glover on PC within the next couple months here.
I thought you were gonna say, speaking of Glover, I got a glove stuck on my ass right now. It's rhinestone, just like my.
I could fit in multiple gloves up my ass, man.
Well, I thought you were just gonna say it's rhinestone, just like my old babysitter, Mr. Michael.
Oh God. But yeah, I mean, Assassin's Creed, and Ubisoft and all that. So for this game, they did actually try to keep things historically accurate, or at least as much as they could. And they even like recreated like ancient cities, like pretty accurately in the game. They did like Jerusalem and Damascus and stuff.
Before you get too much further than this, I don't know if you read about this. I mean, we are skipping ahead, but let's put it this way: this film is not getting a fucking sequel.
No fucking way.
No way this film is getting a sequel, so I can go ahead a little bit with this. For the production of the second Assassin's Creed game, which takes place mostly in Italy, but apparently also extends a little bit into Paris, I only played, just to kind of skip ahead a little bit, I only played a very small amount of the first Assassin's Creed game. Had a lot of fun killing people, just like in Splinter Cell, sneaking up behind them, acting nonchalant, this kind of thing. But at the same time, when it came to open world engagement combat, that game is extremely clunky and shitty, so I never progressed beyond that until I found out about the ending of the game, which we'll get into in a little bit. So, no, I never played the second game, which is the only reason I'm bringing this up quickly. But going into a little bit of when you're talking about how they utilized original blueprints and stuff like that of Jerusalem, which they tried to implement into that game, even more so with what they were able to do with Venice in the second game, as well as Paris. No joke, from a lot of the digital scans and 3D modeling they did for Paris for that, especially when they went into Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. I'm not kidding when I say this. In the past few years, depending upon who in the future, the far-flung future, is listening to this right now, about, 3 years ago, Notre Dame had an internal fire and it damaged most of the buildings.
Yes. Yep.
No joke, they have been utilizing, for reconstruction purposes for that, they've been utilizing digital scans used by the Ubisoft people, Ubisoft Montreal, as well as the in-game models as reference points for rebuilding the inside of Notre Dame Cathedral. Made famously by the Disney film The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
That's pretty cool though, because I mean it makes sense. You know, if that's been recreated like even semi-accurately, if it's the best they got, I mean that's really cool. I love hearing shit like that. Whether it's Ubisoft or not, you know.
No, here's the thing though. It's not just from the fact that that's what was available. It's because they decided to actually go the extra mile, because a few of the people actually from Montreal themselves are actual. I've read about this before. They're actual history majors. They actually were looking for attention. Yeah,
they went to Notre Dame and took actual scans of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they went through there and did that because they were like, you know what? They're both engineering. I should say they're both engineering history majors and history majors, and they're like, you know what? We need to have a sense of authenticity to this when they recreated Notre Dame being such a, world icon as it is.
That's pretty cool.
So no, that is no matter what we can say about the series in terms of what levels of stagnation it may be in from a video game standpoint, how much we didn't like this movie, at least we can say they're helping to rebuild a national and historical icon. So
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool for sure.
That'd be like if the Super Mario Brothers movie helped to like rebuild, I don't know, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa or something like that. Help to finance a way to rebuild like a pillar of that or something like that.
Well, they do have Super Mario World now, so maybe they'll just keep expanding it, and we'll see what happens.
We're going to build the Colosseum of Rome back to its original glory with the help of me. Oh
boy! But yeah, so not only did they do as accurate of recreations of these like old cities and stuff that they could, they also actually put like real historical figures from the past into the game, like pretty accurately, which was really cool because I mean, like I was saying before, like they kind of put actual effort into this game, which is not something people say when they talk about Ubisoft anymore. They were even so confident in this game that they released it in the same window as Halo 3. Which is like one of the top grossing games like ever.
Wait, this game came out in 2007? I've been thinking this entire time that it was 2009 when this game came out.
Yeah, no, 2007.
Holy!
Within 3 months of Halo 3.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
My apologies. No, I can remember exactly the day that Halo 3 came out, and
Me too.
That's not just me being a nerd. That's also because that was also my father's birthday. So that's kind of the main reason I can remember.
Yeah,
that.
I remember the day it came out. We all got together at a friend's house to all play it, and you hadn't taken the disc out of your Xbox on the way over, and we all got to our friend's house, and the game won't boot for you. You take the disc out, and it's got a big ring around it, and I have never seen you that angry. But I think there was like a video store or something. This was back in the days where video stores were a thing. Kids, if you don't know what a video store is, it's like a convenience store or like a gas station, but instead of selling gas, they will rent you a video game or a movie.
And all I can say is, as vividly and as amazingly as you remember that story, unfortunately, that was not me on that day. Thankfully, because I knew not to transport games.
You?
That was not me because I was celebrating my father's birthday that day. I got to play all of 2 hours of Halo 3 on the 25th of September of 2007. And then right after that, I went out to eat with my folks. Then we went home and we watched Grumpy Old Men on standard definition DVD. And
who was that then? Dang,
I couldn't tell you. I do know that on a later date we were playing something and somebody's Xbox the power strip. The power strip that we were using got unplugged, and 4 Xboxes in one room suddenly red ringed at the same time because they lost power for a minute. And that was their full reset from power mode thing, was they'd all do the 3 red rings at one time. But no, I never had an issue like that happen in my game.
Okay, well, I was mistaken.
No, not a problem, but I was just going to go, no. I knew never to transport a disc in my Xbox.
Okay, we're getting really off topic here. Okay.
It's Assassin's Creed. We're golden.
Yeah. But yeah, the game was simultaneously a success and a disappointment. It did sell more than 9 million copies, but critics were pretty hard on it. Like I said before, it had way too many side quests. And as fun as the combat was for it being a game where you find elaborate ways to assassinate people, it wasn't polished. It was kind of glitchy, like most Ubisoft games are at launch. So it got a lot of bad reviews. But, I mean, it did well enough where they made 12,000 other sequels, so...
15 years later, they're still making them.
Yeah.
And with your explanation of the game, I was saying, it came out at launch, and it was kind of a disappointment. It kind of did this, and this. But, it worked well enough. I'm just like, This just sounds like every other Ubisoft game.
Yep.
Every single Far Cry game.
Every Ubisoft.
Every single Watch Dog game. Every single Splinter Cell game.
Yep. It's tough to see a company just so reliably unpolished.
EA?
Don't get me started.
Hey, it could be worse. It could be the Madden franchise.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're sorry to crack a lot of jokes and to kind of stay off topic on this one, but dear God, this movie kind of broke us.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, I'm kind of starting to feel bad a little bit about just shitting on every single movie week after week, and not thinking that it's gonna get worse, but then it always does. We have to just keep shitting on these movies.
We still have Alone in the Dark, and all of the Blood Rain films, and Far Cry,
Yeah.
and Postal,
Yeah.
and Tekken, and Dead or Alive, and potentially next week the Sonic OVA.
I'm excited for that, but I'm a slut for Sonic, so.
I'm just gonna put a barricade right here, and we're just gonna pretend that, you know what? I'm just gonna pretend I'm Fred Willard. You can be Paul Rubens. We're just gonna pretend we're in a porno theater the entire time. Straight ahead.
Yeah, but did you find anything good out about the movie?
Yeah, this movie has a bigger and better production credit than I could have ever guessed that it was gonna have. So apparently they started working on this film back in about 2011. They started, 20th Century Fox actually bought the rights to the film after they started hearing a lot of good buzz around just people enjoying it and having a lot of fun. 2011, when it came out, was around the time that the second game had come out and really pushed the envelope in terms of what an open world game was supposed to be around that time. If memory serves correct, the map on it, I think, because when did Grand Theft Auto 5 come out?
2014?
Okay. So a few years before that, I do know that the one from Grand Theft Auto 5 is now bigger in terms of the actual expansions that they've added onto it. But I do know that when Assassin's Creed came out, that it was supposed to have, because I've heard a lot of stories about Dirt 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. But it's supposed to have the largest open world city map to be in video games up until that point, pretty much. In that, with the release of that, and especially with it extending to Paris, Florence, and a few other cities in some of the expansion packs, people were really clamoring for that game, saying that, oh, it's the second coming of sort of like the open world game, or in terms of what storytelling is going to be in video games from here on out. I mean, keep in mind, around the same time Skyrim came out.
Which... So, sorry to interrupt here, but I don't know if you've heard, they're talking about making what they're calling Assassin's Creed Infinity, which is like a continuous online Assassin's Creed story that is going to go on for years and years. I know, it sounds like the stupidest fucking thing you ever heard, doesn't it? Hot gaming news, everyone, you heard it here.
Okay. For people out there who are probably excited for this, you know, however much you enjoy playing like a roguelike style game like that, where you sneak up behind people and just kill them kind of thing. Which,
if you are an Assassin's Creed fan,
we mean no offense.
Yeah, I'm not trying to push buttons here. This is just my opinion, and I have a lot of bad opinions, so.
And here's mine. How the fuck is that going to be goddamn entertaining when everybody on the fucking map is going to be sneaking behind everybody and just kind of thing to them? I mean, think about it. It's like playing World of Warcraft and having everybody play as the dude with the giant club who walks up behind you and just...
And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're going to have, like, PvP modes and probably, like, story modes and stuff where you might even be able to team up with people or, like, I don't know what they're going to do. But, like, a lot, like, with what was happening in this movie, just I could not care less. It is not appealing in any way. I don't know who is signing off on this and bankrolling it, but Well, no, we do know who. It's Ubisoft.
And for you to say I could not care less, as we talked about earlier tonight, you and I sat next to each other, and I got to watch you fall asleep during the middle of Terminator Genesis back in 2015. So I can tell you right now, he definitely could care more, but he could not care less than this film.
No, I could not care less.
I think if it wasn't for the fact that you were cooking during it, you probably would have crashed during this.
Yeah, so this was a movie where Elmer and I were constantly finding other things to reference to or talk about, or like I would watch the TV from the kitchen as I cooked some delicious Cajun dry rub chicken wings.
Don't worry, leftovers, kid.
But yeah, so like I like cooked and I like watched, and it was, yeah, it's like you don't need to, if you're paying close attention, you're wasting your time. Mm-hmm. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're making my explanation even better. So when it came to the production of this film, back in 2011, like I was saying, right after the second game came out, they were pretty much ramping up production for this. They thought to themselves, oh, we need to get on the market just because of how much, pardon me, the Resident Evil films are kind of dominating it right now, and this is kind of an all-time high for video game films. Took them a few years later, unfortunately, but just a couple of years after 20th Century Fox got the distribution deal for it, they approached Michael Fassbender, who had pretty much been climbing the ranks, working with the likes of Quentin Tarantino, Max von Trier, and who's the other one? Anyway, yeah, no, quite a few different auteur directors out there. Oh, sorry, David Cronenberg of Rick and Morty, of Cronenbergians, Morty.
How did you forget Cronenberg?
Good question. Anyway, he's kind of by this point kind of built his way into Hollywood. Oh, sorry, and Ridley Scott, of course, playing David in the Alien films, which, dear God, how am I saying that Alien Covenant is a better film than this? But anyway, I'm dropping the ball there. Sorry, my alien tattoo is currently weeping. We'll bring that out later. Anyway, he got brought into the project with interests from kind of a historical aspect. In real life, Mr. Fassbender, student of the arts, originally German-born, grew up in England, actually has quite the pedigree behind him of having a classical English actor kind of upbringing where he does actually have a appreciation for the arts and whatnot. So apparently he was brought into it just from the depth as well as the personification, and as he says in an interview, just the potential science fiction realism of this. I could easily see this being a thing. Which, that's him saying that, not Marion fucking Cotillard, who is also in this film, who everybody would recognize from Inception or The Dark Knight Rises, who is actually, which if you get a chance to, look up some YouTube interviews with her, a gigantic conspiracy theorist this side of Alex Jones.
That's exactly what we need.
It is beautiful to watch.
For a second, I thought you were going to talk about Michael Fassbender's gigantic penis.
Well, I was going to leave that out, but, I mean, you bring it up, so if you insist, we can discuss that thing.
Well, when you were talking about, like, Michael Fassbender, as, you may have heard, he's got a hog.
That ain't a hog. That thing is motherfucking Pumbaa on a spit.
Woo! Anyway, continue, Elmer.
Anyway, along with Michael Fassbender, as well as Marion Cotillard, as I brought up, Brendan Gleeson, the great Brendan Gleeson, a.k.a. the father in 28 Days Later, who has one of my favorite lines in cinematic history, "Get the fuck away from me!" as after he gets a drop of blood in his eyeball. Mad-Eye Mooney from how many of the different Harry Potter films is beyond me at this point. And then also, out of nowhere, he pops up as basically playing like a cross between not even a cross between. Basically, he plays a street-preaching Meatloaf in AI, Artificial Intelligence, with Haley Joel Osment, but...
Meatloaf as in, like, meatloaf?
As in, may he rest in peace, the great Marvin Lee Day, Meatloaf.
Yeah. I could see him. He kind of looks like Meatloaf.
He very much looks like Meatloaf. So no, whenever they make the Meatloaf, oh wait, no, they already made the Meatloaf biopic. I forgot about that. If they ever need to make another one, Brendan Gleeson, we're gonna put you on speed dial for that one. As a giant Meatloaf fan, we are definitely gonna put you on speed dial.
Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson's in this, but of course, how could we forget? Oh, the legendary, the great, the immortal, the unforgettable Jeremy Irons in this film is completely forgettable, and that hurts so goddamn much. Jeremy Irons, ladies and gentlemen, the man who made Disney villains by playing Scar in the original Lion King, by being Hans Gruber's brother in Die Hard with a Vengeance. Simon Gruber, one of the best villains of the action villains of the 1990s, if not of all time. The man who made the Dungeons and Dragons film fucking bearable.
I forgot that he was in that.
Or potentially being the most badass Alfred ever in Batman v Superman and Justice League. Actually, the only redeeming parts of Batman v Superman and Justice League. And trust me, I got drunk for both those movies.
He was. You said earlier that he was better than Michael Caine.
I didn't say that. I said he was more badass than Michael Caine.
Okay.
I didn't say he was better.
Batman.
Well, remember, when you say Michael Caine, if you were to say his name in his accent, it sounded like you were saying my cocaine.
Yeah, Michael Caine. And when he says Batman, it sounds like he's saying Buttman. Batman.
No, I can hear that. Well, shit, I gotta work.
Have to get to the Butt Cave.
I gotta work on my Sean Connery impression. Then we can do the Man Who Would Be King impression back and forth through this entire show as you're sitting over here talking about Batman and my cocaine. And I'm sitting over here just being like, oh yes, over here, sweetie. We're taking over the bridge. We're giving the Zulus access to the Henry Martini rifle. You send one of them, they send one of you to the hospital. You send one of them to the morgue.
I was really happy for a second. I was like, man, why am I so... Oh, I forgot we were talking about Assassin's Creed.
And now we're talking about something completely different. Yeah, no, this film wasted Jeremy Irons, and that's a bigger cinema sin, which is the only... Not in reference to that fucking YouTube series, that is abhorrent, but that is a bigger sin to cinema to waste Jeremy Irons than it is to kill Mark Strong in a film. It just is. Just, no.
Yeah, this was almost painful.
Before I finish off, so the one last thing I was going to bring up, this film, like, no one of true note actually did any work on, like, the screenplay or anything like that. The only thing to really bring up is that the director of it, Justin Kurzel, is one of the best actual slow burn psychological thriller directors out there. In terms of, like, realistic, like, hard thriller drama, the guy's fantastic. He did, oh shit, what's the name of that? Yeah, Midtown Murders. Sorry, Midtown Murders.
Okay.
Fantastic Australian, like, psychological thriller where it involves these two people who basically, it's like a realistic version of Natural Born Killers is the best way to describe it.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic movie. Why the fuck did they hire him to make this one? That's what he did right before this. No. Sorry to bring it up, but no, I mean, this is a guy who, the film he did right before this actually starred Fassbender and Marion Cotillard. He did an adaptation of Macbeth, William Shakespeare's Macbeth. Why that gives you the, at least from a studio standpoint of going, hey, let's do a high-octane adventure film involving people who can do 15th century parkour moves across different European cities is beyond me.
What is and the thing is, this came out in 2016, which is what I thought was beyond the whole parkour obsession. But what's with this this game studio and parkour.
Looks cool when you're just sitting there hitting the X button so you don't fall off a ledge.
Just like what was that game? Mirror's Edge. Did you ever play Mirror's Edge?
I played all of 5 minutes of it and yelled at the controls and walked out of the room.
Yeah, at first you're like, oh, this kind of seems like fun. You know, you're thinking like there's gonna be some fluid type movement thing. You're gonna like have a little bit of puzzle solving. It's gonna feel cool. But yeah, and then you play more than a level, and you're like, all right, what's next?
Wee, this is fun. I'm jumping from building to building, and all of a sudden guys are running at you with guns. You're like, oh, this got a lot less fun all of a sudden.
Yeah, like gosh, what was a game that made movement just like fluid like that? Ollie Ollie. Have you ever heard of Ollie Ollie?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
That game, like, even if you mess up and die, it just you're right back into it, and everything is fluid. Like, it's not parkour, it's skateboarding. But if they made a parkour game like that, I think it would work a lot better than any Prince of Persia or Assassin's Creed or.
Yeah, there's got to be sort of a stripped down, ease of access sort of fluidic movement instead of something where you have to, you know, part of the gameplay aspect is, oh, I need to learn from my mistake and kind of bounce back.
Make it satisfying, challenging, but rewarding, you know, which, like I mentioned before, the game didn't have enough polish around that thing, and in the movie, the action scenes were. I don't want to say the action scenes were terrible, because with the production value and the talent that went into the actors and choreography and stuff, it was decent, but these action scenes were so freaking boring. And it's like the thing that's supposed to make the game fun was frustrating. The thing that was supposed to make the movie entertaining, there was barely any of it, and it was really lacking.
Hey, do you know what's fun? Watching people running on top of rooftops, and especially when one is on a horse and they're like slowly tripping people off of rooftops, and
yeah, I have
it's
an idea.
going on for 7 minutes.
Yeah, let's make a 7-minute long scene where these people are just running and parkouring through buildings, and they're being chased, but no one even comes close to touching them or hurting them.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, you know the movie B-13, the fantastic, or, you know, the fantastic French parkour film that actually helped to introduce it to the Western world? Yeah, how about we drop all of that, we do quick cuts every 5 seconds, and we make sure that the audience has no understanding and tracking of where they are in a scene.
So this movie could have been so much better if they understood how to engage people or like make characters relatable or grab your attention somehow, which they almost did a couple times, but like so I forgot to mention the movie opens up, the main character is a guy on death row. You don't know what he did, but he's on death row. And like how does an audience connect with the main character without any backstory except for that he's on death row? Like, that's not relatable.
And also on top of that, not only in the fact are you not being able to relate to him, because I mean really outside of less than 1% of the population has any aspect or connection to that, but you also don't know whether or not the fact he's either guilty or innocent of it. So we don't know either a feeling of that, oh, this guy deserves to die, or the fact of, oh, we should feel bad for that, the fact that this guy is in this situation. So we're all just sitting here going, what's happening?
Yeah, it was almost immediately frustrating.
Oh, not to mention the awful, and I mean awful, Star Wars scroll at the beginning of this, which we're just sitting here going, did that make any sense to you either? Something about an apple and an eagle, and you've played 3 of these games. I played 1, and I have no idea what the fuck.
So, what I remember of it is there's some world organization, Illuminati type people, who are looking for this ancient artifact. The apple of Eden that ancient assassins had hid away or something. That's about all I got about that. But bad guys are looking for an artifact that the good bad guys hid, or whatever. And in order to find it, they develop some crazy genetic system thing called the Animus, where you basically plug into someone's head and you're able to reenact their ancestors' lives through genetics somehow.
Before you go any further, I just need to make sure. With this Linux and Twitch, we don't like auto-generate like our own hashtags or anything like that on this, right?
No, but we could generate a hashtag just by telling
Okay,
people to.
let's be careful because I'm not gonna lie. I was half expecting all of a sudden a bunch of stuff to just pop up in the chat, and I was gonna go, "Oh crap, we're now that new hive of Mother Jones or something like that." All of a sudden, I thought we were gonna have a little pop blip in the corner going,
No,
"Alex is here."
No, Illuminati, Pentagon, what are all these?
Prison Planet, Crooked Hillary, and
Air Force One.
Oh yeah, and turning the frogs gay. There we go.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Scientology, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it does a lot of explaining of this new plot where it's modern day and these Illuminati people are trying to get this thing and use it to convince the population that any sort of independence should be viewed as wrong, and
we literally have weaponized free will, and it is currently spitting out the graphic effects for hologram Tupac into the air.
That's actually a really good way to put it, because it's just the stupidest reasoning for anything.
And I'm just imagining the fact that Jeremy Irons is standing there holding this ball in his hand, which you can see the LED light shooting it up in the air so the graphic artists know what to project into the mist on top of him. And you see the look in his eyes of just, oh, when I get home, I'm going to do so much cocaine tonight. He's totally checked out of this movie, and it's kind of beautiful to see the look in his eyes of, oh, God, I'm going to be in a fucking Batman movie.
But yeah, if you hadn't guessed, the main character of the movie, who is the guy on death row, ends up being saved from death row so he can be used in this Animus thing to relive his ancestors' life, or like replay it as an assassin so they can figure out where all this stuff is. And they do stuff like they figure out somehow through this where Christopher Columbus is buried. And just a bunch of stuff that, like, they spend so much time explaining things that nobody cares about, and then they have no place in the plot later on usually either. Like, they make a big deal to point out that they figured out where Christopher Columbus is buried, and then it literally never comes up again. And it's like, you spent 5 minutes on that? You paid graphic designers and computer scientists and historians to make this stuff believable for literally no reason.
So I'm a history major in actuality, if you actually look at my time going for formal education. And one of my favorite actual periods in world history is the actual golden age of the Renaissance in terms of the age of exploration, with starting around this time in about 1492 and going through the Inquisition up until about the 1600s, basically during the era of the War of the Roses, aka the English Civil War. How the hell do you make me uninterested with the level of detail you went into your film of making it feel like the actual Saradin Inquisition into Spain? You make me actively hate your movie.
See the anything that were important enough to bring to your attention and focus on just were not paid attention to.
No. The sequence where they're like, "Oh, it's 1492, and my great grandfather is talking to Christopher Columbus." I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, "Wow, you're talking to a dude on a fucking merchant ship. Good for you." And they're like, "Oh, by the way, thank you, Christopher." And it's just like, oh god.
The point of the game is to assassinate people in ridiculous and entertaining ways. There's almost none of that in this movie. It should be a historical science fiction action movie about badass assassins, right? Like, it's all about the crazy scientist and her trying to convince the guy on death row that she's not going to hurt him with her machine, and like it's so frustrating. This movie could have been halfway decent even.
This shouldn't even have been a film. This should have been a series. I don't care where, but can you imagine this as an actual series of every week? You have to go back and relive the genetic memory of like a member of your family going through and having to assassinate a different world figure or a figure in the world from a different period in time. That works better. But now I just imagine, you go back into one part, all of a sudden you hear behind your shoulder, you just hear, "Oh, Marty, where are we going to hide the DeLorean?"
Well, the thing is, they'd have like maybe 5 to 10 minutes of somewhat action of like the past recreation from 500 years ago of this assassin going and almost doing entertaining things. And then it'll cut to like 20 minutes of them in modern day where they're just in a dimly lit room talking about the politics.
Or Michael Fassbender is hanging from the ceiling by his nuts in what the worst CGI-looking robotic arm I've seen this side of a frickin' Terminator film.
And it's just, the whole time, all I kept thinking is, they should have just made this movie, like, the whole thing, the story of this guy from 500 years ago, assassinating people and whatever. And then at the end, they could bring up all this modern day stuff by just doing like a quick cut to like this is modern day, this guy has been, the whole movie has been this guy's experience in the Animus, and then they spend 20-25 minutes explaining everything behind it in modern day, if they really had to tell both those stories.
Even better, you do it like Paul in the Wonder Years, where you have him, "These were my Wonder Years."
Freeze frame.
Oh god, Fred Savage is Enzio. And yet it's still Daniel Stern actually narrating.
And then you get that old guy come in. Yes, where were we? Ah, yes, the pit of despair.
Peter Falk. It's almost like, "But Peter Falk, you're both dead? And what the fuck are you doing in this movie?"
It's me, Fred Savage.
Yeah, it's me, Peter Falk. Don't look at my glass eye. Fred, knock it off. Stop looking at my bad eye.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess.
Yeah, we've beaten around the bush this entire time. What did we think of this film?
Yeah, Elmer, was that? I mean, everyone knows what we're gonna say. Bop or flop, Elmer?
Flop in the hardest way, and which I brought up earlier. The fact this movie actually, technically, on paper, made back twice its budget is... That's a goddamn travesty to me, at least. That's a goddamn travesty. In a world where Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and Dread, both of those two films, two of the best films of the past 15 years, both flopped, past 10 years now. 12 years, I forgot. Pilgrim was 2010. Yeah. Both those films flopped at the box office, yet this film made its money back, is just the... that pisses me off to no end. No, this movie is a flop in the sense that there's no redeeming value to this film. This film is going to be not only forgotten, but people aren't even going to regard it in 15 years. I
resent this movie.
This is like the 1990s to like now to the 1990s. This film is Double Dragon.
It's crazy because I think I said during the movie, like, I don't know how many of you listening or watching saw our House of the Dead or listened to that episode, but I would rather watch House of the Dead again. it's frustrating that this movie did well enough at the box office because Scott Pilgrim is my favorite movie of all time.
And Dread is one of my favorite movies of the past 20 years.
And they both did worse than this movie at the box office. So it's, I don't know, it's definitely a flop for me too, Elmer. This was a tough one to sit through. And again, I'm sorry for, we got to keep shitting on these movies every week, but
well, again, you're the genius who said, "Hey, let's talk about video game movies on a fucking weekly basis."
Yeah, you know, you got me there, Elmer. But at least we got some stuff to look forward to. Next week, we may be watching an awful Sonic OVA from the 90s, but it's Sonic, so I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it, and it'll be right before the second Sonic movie that's coming out on the 8th.
Which we're hoping we're going to basically try to do a mostly spoiler-free episode on that, where we maybe not quite discuss, but we at least kind of go in depth and we say, hey, whether or not we really liked it or not.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about the story of the second movie. We might reference a couple commonly known things, but we're really gonna try not to spoil that. But I am so excited to see it because, as everyone here should know, I'm a huge Sonic fan. So, well, with that, unfortunately, flop for both of us. If you insist on seeing this movie, grab some beers. You're gonna need them.
Clarification: ears, multiple.
Yeah. But yeah, with that, you can catch us every Sunday on twitch.tv/Libby, where we're live pretty much every week unless one of us is sick or something, which happens. But otherwise, you can find everywhere to listen to the podcast, as well as like our YouTube link and Patreon and all that stuff at gamelink.click. If you want to support us on Twitch or Patreon or wherever, we definitely appreciate that, and we're going to be giving you guys access to the bonus episodes once we have enough people interested to start doing those, which we have some
I gotta bounce
plans.
out for a minute. You finish up that. Stay safe, stay sexy, guys.
Yeah.
Have a good week.
No, we'll just end it.
Keep rolling.
So, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.